So, hello everyone, and welcome to the Your Overseas Home virtual event. My name is Ryan Timms, and I am your host for this seminar for the tax essentials of moving to Portugal. Thanks for joining us on a Saturday. We hope to make it worth your while. For this seminar, we're joined by Robert Webb, a private wealth manager from Chase Buchanan with over 25 years worth of experience in financial services. So before I give Robert the floor, we'd like to let you know we will open the floor up to questions after the presentation. Should you have any as we go along, please type them in the questions in the questions tab in the Q&A area below, and I can ask them on your behalf. So Robert, it'll be great if you could please introduce yourself and Chase Buchanan before starting your presentation.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ryan. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to a not so sunny Portugal this morning, but rest assured, most of the time it is very sunny. My name is Robert Webb. I'm a consultant with Chase Buchanan. We are located here in the Algarve, in Vila Sol, ideally placed to advise people right across the Algarve. So this morning, I'm going to take you through the process of getting visas to come here, and then I'm going to take you through various tax issues which I think you need to know about. It's been an interesting week in Portugal politically, which I will touch on during the presentation. So without further ado, off we go. Right, a little bit first and foremost about us, about Chase Buchanan. This is our group structure. The first column there basically tells you that we are registered and regulated in Cyprus, like a lot of advisors these days. That first column is what we call an investment license, so we are able to give investment advice across Europe. The second column is insurance, so we are authorized to discuss and provide insurance products. The third column there, we are still registered with the UK FCA. Next column is our cross-border tax specialists based in the Isle of Man and the UK. And finally, for those of you from the US, an interesting feature is we are fully regulated and licensed in America. So if there's any Americans listening, we can certainly help you. Our offices, Belgium, Canada, Cyprus, Spain, Malta now. So the story there, the message there is we're very widely spread across Europe. Our services are basically standard financial services group subjects, but the one point I'd like to make is right at the end there, holistic planning. We tend to look at the whole picture. We tend to look at all the pieces in the jigsaw, not just the issue at stake. So in other words, we're talking about pension. We try to bring in everything else that is related to the pension so you get a complete picture. Right, so that's really Chase Buchanan. Now moving to Portugal. First, EU nationals. Now this is absolutely easy. So if you're French, German, or Irish, you really have no problems at all. You don't need a visa to come down here. All you have to do is to register with the local town hall after 90 days. That's it. It is so simple. You have to go through a fair bit of paperwork, which is a bit painful, but really it should only take 2 or 3 days. There is absolutely nothing to it. You'd have residency for 5 years, and then after that, you could apply for permanent residence. Easy peasy. Non-EU nationals. Now, this is where it starts to get tricky. This would include people from, say, South Africa, America, and of course, the UK. So there are a couple of stages here that you need to consider. Right, the first one is Portugal is in the Schengen area, which means you can come down here for 90 days without a visa. That is the important bit. No visa. Now that will give you time to have a good look around, get a lawyer, get an accountant, look at estate agents, property, so on and so forth. But you would need to get a tax number, it's known as a NIF, and you need to open up a Portuguese bank account if you're serious about coming down here permanently. So that's stage one. Stage two, you then need to apply for an entry visa in your home country. So that would be somewhere like Johannesburg, Los Angeles. In the UK, Manchester. That's the primary source. You can go to London, but my information now is that Manchester is the preferred location. You can either apply for a D2 entrepreneur's visa or a retirement visa, which is the D7. And of course, most people would be looking at the D7. Once the visa is issued, it's valid for 120 days. The critical thing there is you need the usual identification documentation, your passport, things like that to present to the consulate. And you need health insurance for 120 days. And that's an obvious thing, really. The only issue there is it will probably take about 2 to 3 months. It is a bit time consuming. So please be aware of that. Next stage is then considering purchasing or renting long lease Portugal property. So that would obviously tie in with the first stage on your first visit when you've looked at estate agents. So really that's then a fairly advanced stage. So when you get here, you then have to apply for a residence visa. Okay. Now this used to be granted by CEF, which was the immigration department, but that's just recently been replaced by a new authority called AMA. So to be absolutely honest, I have no knowledge or experience of dealing with AMA at the moment. And come to that, nobody else has either. So it's a whole new world, this one. Hopefully quicker. You would then have to provide a minimum income requirement, and for couples, it's only 12,000 euros. So for the UK, effectively, that's state pension. So it's not a great deal. Again, it would probably take about 2 to 3 months, but the important bit is to apply for this as soon as you get here, because it probably will take about 2 to 3 months. But once you've applied for it, effectively, you're in, okay? Once you get the visa, you can register with the National Health or take out your own insurance or both. The other one there is family reunification. So if you have children, spouse as well, you can apply for family reunification. Bit long-winded, but at the end of the day, it's worth it because Portugal is a great place to live. It's fantastic. So quite a bit of paperwork to go through, but once you're through that, happy days. There used to be what is called a golden visa. Now, this was basically buying a property anywhere in Portugal for $500,000. You got preferential treatment with regard to residence. Now, needless to say, this is one of the changes that happened. The golden visa for property purchase is no longer available. You can still, however, get it by investing into various funds or creating jobs or a local company, but you need €500,000 euros there. So it's into the specialist area. Not many of our clients actually apply for that, but it is available should you wish. Right, non-habitual residence. Now, this is the one that's been in the headlines in the last couple of weeks. Now, what it is, it's actually a tax status. It's not a visa, it's not a residence permit, it's a tax status. Anybody who's got a D7 or the D2 can apply for it. Okay, and the requirements are you have not lived in Portugal for the last 5 years, you have not had NHR status before, and you've lived in Portugal for 183 days. Okay. Once you get it, the status is valid for 10 years. Income tax is only 10% flat on pension income from outside Portugal. No tax to pay on dividends from outside Portugal, and no tax on interest or royalties received from outside. Right, that's the advantages, that's the features. But about a week and a half ago, the Prime Minister declared on television that NHR, as we know it, non-habitual residence, was going to be abolished. Last week, that was all reversed for various reasons. And this week, I think it was on Wednesday, it all got reversed again. So it will be abolished from January the 1st, 2024. But there is a very small window up until December the 31st, during which you might be able to get residency, depending on your current circumstances. If you can get residency before December 31st, you can then apply for NHR up until March next year, okay? So there is a window, it's very small, but it is available. We've got people who can help you with this. So if it is, an issue for you, please get to me and I can put you in touch with people who may be able to, really push it on for you.
So we just got a question from Jim actually on the NHR topic.
Yeah.
He's asking, is there any chance that it could be extended into late 2024? No.
Well, good question. A bit of a flippant answer in a way, if you like. This is Portugal, and nothing runs in a straight line. The golden visa, for example, was supposed to be abolished completely. Well, that got amended, and the policy on NHR, that's changed at least twice. So it's possible. Anything is possible. But at the moment, I think the safer option is to assume that it will go on January 1st. But it's possible it could be amended, it could be extended. I really don't know. Your guess is as good as mine, to be honest. Right, now, the main tax features of Portugal. Income tax is 14 to 48%, depending on the actual amount of income. But again, I've just put in NHR there as a gentle reminder, should you be able to get it, or it's extended, just difficult to say, really. Capital gains tax, 28%. If you've got a property sale or gain in the UK, you pay capital gains tax in the UK. But the DTA, the double taxation agreement, will kick in, and you might have to pay a little bit of extra tax in Portugal. Again, this is quite a complicated area, and we can put you in touch with accountants who can help you on that. Share gains in the UK, these are taxable in Portugal under the double taxation agreement. Happy news, there's no wealth tax in Portugal. But there is on property, but that only starts at 1.2 million for a couple. VAT, 6 to 23%, so similar to the UK. Inheritance tax, this is a massive subject. There is none in Portugal, okay? And a lot of people come down here and assume that inheritance tax does not apply to them if they're from the UK, for example. But UK domiciles living in Portugal, you're still liable to inheritance tax, even though you're living in Portugal. It's a massive subject, and I'm happy to give you more details on that. Right, so now some financial and tax planning points. The big thing now, when you get to Portugal, is think Portuguese. It's very difficult to jump from the UK box into the Portugal box, but you're in the Portugal box, so you have to start thinking Portuguese. And sometimes it doesn't take long. Other occasions, it takes a long time to get into that groove. So with regard to financial planning, UK advisors are unable to advise UK expatriates in Portugal. Okay, so that's quite a critical point. Right, if you've got UK pensions, before you leave the UK, take the tax-free cash. Now, this is usually 25% of the fund. The reason is it's tax-free in Portugal, in the UK. But once you get here in Portugal and you take it, then it's taxable. So beware of that. It's a big point. Once you've taken the tax-free cash and moved down here, you might want to consider moving the balance of the fund into what we call a SIP, self-invested personal pension plan, or a QROP. That's basically an offshore plan based usually in Malta. Now, with the NHR, remember it is 10%. So if that goes, there are various tax planning measures we can undertake to mitigate the loss of that on your pensions. It's again a big subject, and I don't really have the time to go into it today. But if you're interested in that, please contact me, and I can give you some more information. Your ISAs, if you've got ISAs in the UK, taxable in Portugal at 28%. So this is an example of coming out of the UK box into the Portugal box. Stocks and shares, same thing, taxable in Portugal, okay, on a capital gain. So think about selling stocks and shares in the UK before you leave. UK investment bonds, again, Portugal box, taxable in Portugal. So if you've got a Scottish Widows, an Aviva investment bond, effectively tax-free in the UK on part of it, but not down here in Portugal. Right, UK property. So if you have rented property in the UK and you live down here, the income and gains rental is taxable in the UK. All right. Irish pensions. If there's anybody from Ireland listening, you might want to consider transferring Irish pensions. One of the income options on an Irish pension is what's called an ARF. It's an approved retirement fund. If you take it in whilst you're in Ireland, you're going to be taxed on it in Ireland, even after living and coming down here to stay in Portugal. Okay, it's a massive point, and some people get caught by that. So again, if you do have Irish pensions and you need to or would like to discuss it with me, absolutely no problem at all. State pensions, UK, paid gross, never any income tax deducted from state pension, but taxable in Portugal. Portuguese compliant investment bond. This is a very tax efficient plan, a very tax efficient investment that you can make in Portugal. It benefits from very low tax rates. For example, there's no capital gains tax on any growth you make on your investment, and the withdrawals that you take are not taxed at the full rate on the full amount of the withdrawal. So, for example, if you had, say, £5,000 worth of interest, the tax would be on 5,000, okay? But with a withdrawal from the bond, the tax is only on part of the 5,000. So it reduces the overall taxation rate considerably. Again, I'm happy to give you more details on that, but that is really quite an important piece in the jigsaw for ongoing capital and income needs. UK inheritance tax, I'm going to touch on this really very, very quickly and very simply. It's very simple. If you're a UK domicile, and a domicile is a status that attaches you to one country at a particular time. And for most people, in fact, probably all people coming from the UK, they would have what's called a UK domicile. And unfortunately, that identifies you with the UK, and it still puts you in the inheritance tax net, even if you're living in Portugal. Now, that would last for at least 5 years. There's another principle there, which I don't really have time to go into. But please don't fall into the trap of thinking just because there's no inheritance tax in Portugal, you are completely out of the UK inheritance tax net. You're not, okay? Even worse, your Portugal assets, property, whatever it is, are in the UK net. Terrible, but there it is. You've got 325,000 tax-free on inheritance tax. That could rise considerably depending on various circumstances, and tax would be at 40% on the excess. That's it very briefly on inheritance tax. Right, conclusion time. Really a lot to do. A lot of it, really, the start of it is the paperwork, going through the visa applications, buying and selling property, looking at UK sales, buying this, buying that. Almost certainly there's going to be delays, hiccups along the way. So it's not a straight line. So be prepared for that. But once you get here, absolutely happy days. People are great. Weather's great. Food, golf, if you're a golf fan, brilliant. Everything's really, really nice. Very easy, very relaxed place. Now, to get all the paperwork in place, I would suggest you use an agent for that, basically because of language. If you come down here and you start going to the local finances, which is the tax department, or you go to the local AIMA, which is the immigration department, you may be lucky and hit somebody who speaks English. Chances are you won't. So if you've got somebody, a Portuguese speaker, it's a great help, believe you me. We work with lawyers and accountants who can help you. So if you need any help on that, please let me know. But any advice on the financial planning or tax planning, please do get in touch. And I think that's finally it. So that's a great thank you for everybody who's attended. I really appreciate your time. If you want any more information or input, please get in touch with me. If you want a copy of the slides, I'm happy to send those on to you. So I think that's about it from me. And nice. I hope I'm within time.
Yeah, no, we've got some questions coming as well. So thank you very much for that, Robert. So Jim, actually, just like you said about contact you and getting hold of you, he actually has said he lives in the Algarve. Could he visit you directly in your office? So
yeah, that's great. Anytime.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. We have, just going back to the residency slide, Teresa has asked, what is the position for the spouse of someone with an Irish passport? She's inquiring obviously about residency.
Well, it depends, right? If the application is by the Irish national, absolutely no problem. You would get a residency certificate in that case. And again, the spouse could come in on family reunification. Absolutely not a problem.
Okay, nice. Thank you for covering that. So what would you say would be like the main tax consideration for someone moving to Portugal, the main topic that people should look into?
I would say it would obviously depend on your income source and your asset source. Income, you'd obviously have to look at income tax. And of course, now with NHR, it is in a bit of flux, to be honest. But as I said, I did say in the presentation, there are various ways and methods of mitigating the tax, and I'm happy to go into that on a personal level. But I would say income tax. The other one would be capital gains tax. If you've got property in the UK or outside Portugal, because most double taxation agreements basically say that with immovable property, the tax is levied on the property in which the property is situated, not where you're resident. So if you've got property in France, Spain, wherever, you'd have to pay tax in Spain, Germany, wherever.
Okay, yeah, that makes complete sense. Someone else just popped a question in the Q&A tab as well. So asking, we have sorted out residency. How do you bring in a dependent parent from outside the EU?
Good, from outside the EU.
Yep.
That's a good question. You need to take specialist advice on that. I can put you in touch with somebody who will be able to do that. That's not an easy task.
Okay. Yeah, so feel free to reach out to Robert.
Yeah, please do.
After this, and we can, yeah, and as he mentioned, he can put you in touch with some specialist help. So just to summarize and wrap up, why do you think people should use the professional help from Chase Buchanan, and what bespoke services can you offer?
Basically, local knowledge and experience. Okay. Moving to any country is a whole new ball game. And what you have to consider is the overlap between your UK assets and how effective or not they are in Portugal. Most of them aren't, but a lot of people don't really kind of get that initially. But we've got loads of experience dealing with that. And what we are able to do is to put in a structure of plans that will dovetail into Portugal. Because don't forget, the key here is think Portuguese. So you're leaving the UK, but you're leaving all the plans, the ISAs, the stocks and shares there. All of a sudden, in Portugal, they become taxable. So we can sort all this out. It's just a restructuring, reprocessing. That's all it is. And we've got a ton of experience dealing with that.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Robert. You've made some really, really clear and insightful tips there. So we thank you again for today's session. We strongly recommend you obviously get in touch with Chase Buchanan directly to discuss your requirements in detail. You can find them in our exhibition hall and you can speak to them directly. Again, thank you very much, Robert, for sharing your knowledge with us today. And thank you all to our listeners for joining. If you found this seminar useful, please fill in our feedback survey for a chance to win a 200 flight voucher. You can use that to go see Robert, or you can go on a nice holiday somewhere. But you will receive this via email later, or tell us how we did in the lounge. So yeah, our next seminar for buyers in Portugal is at 12 p.m. today, and we will introduce you to 3 contacts for your property purchase. So yeah, thank you very much, everyone, and good luck with your overseas plans. And again, thank you very much, Robert, for hosting with us.
No problems. Been a pleasure. Thank you for your time, everybody. Thanks a lot.